Okay guys, welcome back to the channel. Got a really cool video for you today. Actually, it's going to turn out to be 2 or 3 videos. Basically, I did a Zoom interview with Edgar of Theoretica Applied Physics. As you know, he has the Bach product, award-winning product, absolute sound, got all these awards. I've sold dozens and dozens of them. And actually, on the Zoom today are several members of my membership section and also owners of the Bach. And so we have Q&A, but we covered mainly 3 topics today. The first one, which I'll release in a separate video, is the sphere and the holoplot technology. Wave field synthesis is really what it's called. And what you find out is that Edgar has actually been working on this way back to 2008. A lot of people think that this is new. And Holoplot is now the first to use it in an actual venue, have money behind it to put it out. But as you'll learn, and you'll see in this Zoom, Edgar actually has one of those speakers behind him in the lab circa 2008. And he told us a cool story. One audiophile bought one of these phase arrays back in the day from a company, I think it was Marantz or somebody, that licensed this thing, created for audiophile at home. There's one out there somewhere, he says. But in any case, this is something that will trickle down to the home at some point, because what this will do is replace, in my opinion, omnidirectional and surround sound speakers that in the past have tried to accomplish multiple sweet spot, multiple enjoyment from a wide range, and get all these spatial cues. Now with this wave field synthesis and the phased array type speakers, as soon as that comes to the home, I think that's going to replace the more primitive ways we've tried to enjoy with a wider soundstage, bigger groups, family rooms. And in a family room situation, it can even be better than the sphere because, like Edgar does in his lab, and I saw it firsthand, they could track your head and your family member's head. And so it can always keep it ideal. In theory, and I heard this firsthand, 2 people can be listening to 2 different songs in a family room together. And it's not that complicated if you understand how speakers work. Basically, drivers automatically cancel each other anyway at a certain distance, and their distances, comb filtering, and if you understand that stuff, different speaker makers all these years, decades, have tried to address, doing to different degrees of success, getting rid of comb filtering and those cancellations and making it a better speaker. But now with technology and the brain power like Edgar and other people, basically we have the ability now to use that to our advantage and beam sound and use timing the drivers differently to use that cancellation to our advantage, beam sound. It's not as complicated as you think, but in the Edgar's a Princeton professor, so I'm going to let him explain it a lot better. He's used to explaining stuff to students, so you're going to really want to watch that video, especially if you're the more high IQ audiophile that likes to be on the forefront of things coming down the road. Now, what we also addressed in the Zoom is that he's going to be at Capital Audio Fest. And one thing he's going to bring is the Grand, which very few people have seen, the Grand chassis. It's going to be something cool. It's got a 3D type chassis. Super cool. Super expensive. Super hard to make. Takes over a month to make one. So it's a high price tag. But for those that really want the coolest and the most inputs and outputs, point-to-point wiring, the Grand is the option that you're going to get a chance to see at Capital Audio Fest. But the other thing he's going to bring to Capital Audio Fest is his new optimal room correction software. And I'm going to let him talk about it mostly in the Zoom, but just to give you a little preview, it's basically competition to Dirac and Arc Genesis, although there really isn't, they really aren't competition, because all those softwares, Accurate, all of these take 1-point mics, but then also multiple positions. By definition, they're all estimates and averages that the algorithm has to calculate for what's going into your ear. They aren't actually in your ear. But as you know with the Bach, it takes in-ear measurements. And so now it takes into account your ear pinna, in-ear measurements. You don't have to guess. You don't have to estimation anymore. So there's nothing going to be more accurate in terms of the data coming in. And now he has the algorithms such to address different frequencies, how they impact your ear pinna, and also psychoacoustic effects, how we perceive sound, to make a correction automatically for you. That's been one of the problems with Dirac and all these other ones, is that yes, it can get you better than without it. Sometimes it can be worse if you don't know how to take the measurements properly. There's a lot of human error involved. I've given videos on tips and tricks to avoid those errors, but it's still a little bit of massaging after the fact to get it perfect. And even then, you know, it's never totally perfect. We haven't reached perfect sound yet. But now, this is going to be the closest thing to super accurate room correction through DSP and simple. Nothing, no learning curve, none of these manual tips, because now it's getting all the information for you in your ear. And it's building off of the filter you already have for crosstalk cancellation if you buy it with the Bach. Now, a couple things to note. It will be a standalone product probably as well if you just want the optimal room correction, don't want to do the Bach. Very few people, I can't imagine anybody wanting to do it with only one, but that will be an option. Everybody that bought the Bach from me, as he explained on the Zoom tonight, they're going to get this for free, add it onto theirs, and also be potential beta testers as we test out the GUI and make sure, get more feedback on what people are hearing. Now, for Capital Audio Fest, we used to offer discounts, show discounts on Bach products. Edgar, earlier this year, said he wanted to do away with that. And so probably what the perk will be at the show is we could still grandfather you in if you do buy during the show weekend for getting this optimal room correction software included with your order for free and be a potential beta tester if that's something you want to do. Now, he won't be testing it live in terms of recalibrating everybody for the optimal room correction at the demo in Capital Audio Fest, because right now the processing takes over 5 minutes to create this filter. Now he's got to reprogram it more efficiently, a different language. He says it'll be much faster, but it's still in the alpha phase. But he's going to have it active at Capital Audio Fest. So again, if you want to get a dedicated demo of the Bach filter and hear the optimal room correction, contact me, email me. It's always in the description of the videos, and set up a time. I've already set up a bunch of times, so we get kind of limited, but I can try to get even during the day, we can kind of close off the room. If you're serious and you really want to get a thorough demo, that's the tough thing in Edgar's room. Unlike every other room, and that's what I noticed, is that people do not get up in that center seat. In fact, it's usually 2, 3, 4 songs. You have to kind of coax them out of that, unlike every other room where sometimes people don't even stay for one song. So that's the biggest anecdotal proof you can get. But really what we want to get you is a chance to hear firsthand in that sweet spot. So if you definitely want to hear that, reach out to me and let's see if we can't coordinate something with you. Without further ado, though, let's go ahead and hear from Edgar a lot more details, and you can see the GUI interface that he shows. He shares his screen, and we also have some Q&A that may be helpful too. Enjoy. Yeah, so let's get talking about Capital Audio Fest, because that's coming up in a few days. Lots of cool news with both the Bach and your new product. So I'll let you kind of give
Jason,
some tidbits on that, but now let's go ahead and let you talk about it.
Yeah, Jason asked me to say a few words about Capital Audio Fest. Of course, is starting on this Friday. We are going to be setting up again what is probably, this is from Munich. This is probably was the simplest system in all of Munich show. Actually, I'm told that it was. It's just one Bach SP audio and 2 powered speakers. In this case, these are Janssen acoustic hybrid. They're really wonderful speakers. When we played them last time in Munich, I didn't have the time to tune them. They're a little bit bass heavy, and they had some issues in the bass, but and still people love them. But I have since tweaked them correctly. I've also used the new Baco RC to correct them, and they sound spectacular. I invite you to come listen to them. Those of you and those who are listening to this channel who want to come have a private audition, Jason is arranging that, so I'm happy to help with this. So we're going to have, this is David Chesky listening to the system in Munich. It will be the same idea, the same system, except we bring in also, aside from bringing in audio or deal, we bring in for the first time the Bach SP Grand. And the Grand is our flagship unit, which actually we issued originally in 2016 when we first launched Bach SP. We're now coming back with it. It is really a no-compromise device, and it's a bit heftier than the audio and deal, and it has the following features. Is the chassis is made by Neil Fay, not Neil Feet, Neil Fay. This is a pretty good. Not that the audio is not a great shot. The audio and Dio are made by MSP technology. The chassis are, and they are very different design. They're both beautiful. The audio and Dio are milled from a single piece of aluminum. This one is not. However, it has a sculptural front piece that's very heavy. That's made out of beautiful heavy aluminum that's been sculpted to give you this 3D effect, kind of moire effect with the reflections. But it's also a heftier device. It has point-to-point wiring. That's the one difference. The other one is just 4 circuit boards. They are punched together: a CPU, a Wi-Fi station, and a power supply, the audio and the Dio. They're all plunked into this milled chassis. This is all one cavity, but it has all these wires. This is point-to-point hand wiring. It's assembled by hand, and it's really it takes about a month to assemble one Bach SP Grand. It also has more types of formats of input. As a matter of fact, it has every known digital and practically every known digital and analog input-output format. It has analog, it has TRS, RCA, and XLR. And digital, it has SPDIF Toslink, SPDIF coax. It has USB in-out. It also has AES EBU and even has AES3ID, which is very seldom used in audiophile world. It also has 6-channel DAC, 6-channel ADD converters, and comes fully loaded. So it's really our flagship. And we thought it would be fun to bring it and show it off to our to people at AudioFest. So I'll stop right here about Capital AudioFest and take questions before I say a few words about the what I've been working on for the past few months, which is the optimal room correction.
I took my system over to Denver for a friend of mine. I think I impressed it. He's probably a future customer.
Great, thank you.
I noticed when you go to the show, you tend to do a lot of floor treatment. You always put floor reflected, get rid of that floor reflection. How important is that? Is that a big deal, or is it just something?
It's not. Let me first. These hotel rooms are usually lousy, but ironically, let me go back to this picture. These speakers actually don't care. These speakers are so directive, especially in that direction, because they are so the array. I mean the how do you call the board? The electrostatic panel is rectangular, and the longest dimension is in the vertical direction, meaning there's really very little bounce off the floor and the ceiling. However, I put these on purpose just to tell people that room acoustics are important. If I was not using these speakers, there'll be a floor reflection that will detract from from the 3D imaging. And even those speakers are bouncing some energy, of course, but they're actually very room immune. I like to illustrate that room acoustics are important. It's not a point that's made very common. Most speakers do not make do not even know about it, or do not care about it, because you cannot make much money out of these $15 room treatments, or even thicker fiberglass ones. They're not a big business, but they're tremendously important. If a room can add as I'm going to say next with the room correction, it can add 5-10 dB trough or a suck out into your frequency response. If a cable or an amplifier did that, you put it in the garbage. But your room can do much more than that, much worse than that. Yet nobody cares. Many people do not care about the rooms. Now, many people do care about the rooms. Many Bach customers have room treatment, and so room treatment is important. Ironically, this room does not really need room treatment, but I still bring room treatment to show it off and to make the point.
Thank you.
Okay, speaking of room, it's a good segue. Any other questions before we talk about room correction?
Yeah, it'd be good to get into the room correction right off of that.
All right. So room correction, some of you have heard me talk about my dream of getting room correction correct, and it's been going on for 4.5 years. When I give a dedicated talk to room correction, and I hope to do that before the holidays when we launch it officially. This is a preview. I'll tell you about the genesis of the whole thing. And this has started with a nudge from a wonderful engineer by the name of Dr. C from one of the founders of Odyssey, who is a big fan of Bach, but he has very special speakers. I'm going to show them right behind me. He makes these speakers right here. These are desktop speakers. They're made out of magnetostatic. These are probably the best desktop systems in the world. Somebody who's a friend of Dr. C and mine bought 2 pairs, one for me and one for him. And I've been working with them, but they need to be equalized to work well. And equalization is something, and room correction is something that I've always thought about. And I've always had a problem. We have put in the lab pretty much most of room correction algorithms out there. We have Dirac in the next door room. I've used REW, there's Accurate, and so on. They all, in my opinion, have great things, but they also have shortcomings. And all I'm going to tell you for the time being is that, in generally speaking, all of these require that you take a microphone, put it at different spots, and then average. I mean, the software will average to get you an average room correction filter. Well, an average is by definition wrong everywhere. So an average is not going to give you, the right correction at your ears. Second, doesn't know where your ears are. Your ears might move. Okay, so that's another thing. Third, there are some psychoacoustic problems in these. There are some acoustic rules that are neglected by these room correction that we think are tremendously important. First, I will argue and I'll show you. I'm writing a white paper, which I'm going to be releasing when the product is ready. It will argue that room correction should be done binaurally because the pinna's effects are important. And that's not very intuitive, and I'll explain that clearly. And we demonstrated that. Second, if you do binaural room correction, which you can do with Bach DSP because it comes with microphones and the camera, then you can do room correction for the first time binaurally at your ears and with head tracking, so exactly what your ears are. No average, no need to do an approximation, okay? So that's some of the important things. But there are other important things. I'd rather show you than keep talking. I'm going to show you, I'm done with the interface. Everything is ready, actually. It's all working, except it's written in a language that needs to be compiled. It's written in a language called Mathematica, which I used to do my initial software. It's being now translated to C++ to become a product. So I'm going to share and show you that the product is already ready. So here's Bach DSP, all of you are familiar with. And you'll see it says right here, first, am I sharing? No, I'm not sharing yet.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sharing?
Yeah.
Oh, you can see. Okay, good. So you can see it now. Now this is ESP14. Nobody has it yet. It's the new version. But you see there's a button right here. It says ORC. You click on that button, you get this interface. This interface has the ORC logo right here. And it has, you can switch between bins as usual. And then you can, you see one of them says has the word match. I'll explain that later on. You can then click on this. And then this does head tracking in 3D. You can see your head is being tracked. And the correction is live, depending on where your head is. Plus, if you're technical, you want to see what's going on, you will get to see exactly what's going on, because this is the binaural response without room correction. And then these are all these are recommended optimal settings. You can change these settings if you want. It will remind you that you have departed from the optimal ones. The optimal ones are the ones that have a green rectangle. And usually you don't have to touch this. But the nerds, there will be people who are going to be tweakers and going to play with the ORC. But we guarantee that if you leave it the default value, you get an optimal room correction. And when you do that, your response will become like this. And you'll see it's not perfectly flat. It's not perfectly flat on purpose, because humans, and we'll argue in the white paper, should have the pinna correction above a few kilohertz. Your head and pinna have a role, and it has to be corrected in a very proper way for room correction to be natural. And you will see that when you design a room correction filter and then listen to it with a Bach filter, not only the sound is more natural, but the 3D image is better. The imaging gets improved for reasons that have to do with the high with the pinna correction. But I was just want to finish by saying one word about one description, general description about the general idea. The general idea that instead of the high frequencies are absorbed in your room to a large extent. So if you take a microphone and record the frequency response in your room, it will be deficient in high frequencies. And if you go ahead and compensate for it, you will be doing more harm than good. You'll be boosting high frequencies, while in real life, your brain is latching on because of something called the precedence effect to the high frequencies that are perfectly fine, but coming directly from your speakers, which are typically fine. There's plenty of content there. It might need to be corrected, but if you rely on correcting the late response or the integrated response in time, you'll be over boosting the high frequencies. So there are a bunch of rules that we have introduced, all of which we think make a tremendous difference. Of course, your ears will be the ultimate rule on, the ultimate judge on all of this. But so far, the people who listen to it are very happy with it, and it's significant improvement, which I think is the most important movement that we have offered for Theoretica since the Bach 10 filters, which came out about 3 years ago. Potentially, it's probably the most important movement since the Bach filter itself. But I'm not going to use too much hyperbole and let other people judge for that. But I'll stop right here and see if you have any questions. I'm sure somebody's going to ask me how difficult it is to make a filter. The good news is when you make a Bach filter, it automatically makes an ORC filter for you. Right? However,
one more set of measurements, right?
However, you can, if you then make one more measurement on top of that, it will produce what's called a matched Bach filter. So in other words, you make an ORC filter, it loads it, and then you make another measurement so you can measure your system with that ORC filter. And you do that in 2 steps. So it'll be one extra measurement, and that's even better. But even the first measurement will improve your frequency response tremendously. But the second one will match your Bach filter to the ORC filter. I hope that's clear, but it will become clear when I'll give a demo later on. But the bottom line is the way it works is like this. Let me go back. You just, as before, you go to make a Bach filter, you click on R, and you wait for the, this computer is being loaded by Zoom, so it takes a long time to respond. But when it comes back and responds,
Might want to share again. I think you turned off sharing.
I turned off sharing. Okay, sorry. Yes, thank you for reminding me. Yes. Here we go. So you see now, when you click on ARM, you get these 2 buttons. You can either create a new Bach filter and ORC filters, which is the first step usually, and then you can create a new Bach filter to match existing ORC filter. So you click on File, you hold microphones, you do the same thing that you do with Bach DSP, and then that's it. You produce these filters, they're loaded, and you can turn them on and off by clicking on the ORC button right here. Once you make the filter, each bin you can make an ORC filter for each bin, and you can toggle it on and off by clicking on this button right here. And this one has a frame around it. It tells you that this is a matched Bach filter. In other words, this was done with 2 passes. So bin number 2 has 2 passes, is matched. You can still turn on and off the ORC filter. But you'll see that when you turn it on, everything becomes more natural and the imaging gets better. And I'll let you decide for yourself. Of course, those who have Bach for Mac do not have to pay anything. It's going to be for free, added as a module. However, we're thinking of making this a separate product. So people who do not want to do Bach or do not know about Bach yet, know about ORC, can buy this and then can upgrade to Bach for Mac with Audiophile with Bach in it. So it'll be separate room correction software. But for those of you who have Audiophile, will automatically get the ORC for free in time for Christmas as a Christmas present. Benchmarking against the Dirac. So those of you who have Dirac, I'd be very interested in what you think. This is a new microphone I got from a DSP today too, because I have one at home, but in the lab, we're doing a lot of work now, and our Dirac microphone disappeared. So so people are using Dirac. Dirac is the state of the art. I have a lot of respect for the company Dirac, but I really think our approach is unique, and it'll be good to hear what people say about the difference. I know that Jason is very familiar with Dirac.
And actually, I just spent an hour listening about the Anthem Arc Genesis in Toronto. You probably didn't see that video, and it was kind of a snooze fest for us that was in it. But I stayed awake the whole time, and it was a little bit different than Dirac, or Dirac, however you pronounce it. But like you say, the estimates are, especially with the Arc Genesis, some of these measurement points are up to 10 feet away from you. In at least the examples he was doing for us live. And yeah, you're always compromised with that type of estimation and averaging versus now with head tracking plus in ear and accounting for your ear pinna. Yeah, that's something that really I don't even think these are competitors to what you've got here. And then when you combine it with the Bach filter and crosstalk cancellation, totally different.
Yeah, I have to say that I can argue the following: for a Bach filter type listening, there's the method that we have has clear advantages. I mean, there's no doubt about it. And first, you'll hear them. Second, I'll explain to you why. But I will argue also the Bach format, Bach ORC has advantages for even when you're not listening with the crosstalk cancellation. I mean, the same advantages even when you're not listening with the crosstalk cancellation, except that they are more pronounced with Bach filter. So, but I'll let other people also experiment and decide for themselves. And I'll give a presentation of why, and there'll be a very technical paper and a less technical white paper, all of which I'm working on. And there will be, I'm just done now with the development of Bach ORC. It's all working, waiting for the code to be translated to C++ to be included in the present filter generation code. But the interface is all ready. Everything's done. Then the alpha testing will commence in 10 days, 12 days. And it looks like we'll have the beta version done before by Thanksgiving. So, or at least, halfway through by Thanksgiving. So by Christmas, we should be announcing the module with the next download. And the white papers will be around the same time.
Yeah, the quicker you can get one to me, the better. I'd love to be playing with it and
Sure.
Yeah, me too.
It. Yeah.
Those of you who want to be beta testers are welcome, with the caveat that you might. Great, Mike. I'll wonderful. Emerson also great. I will. I'm going to write the names down. The more beta testers, the better. Emerson.
I'll do a formal poll in my WhatsApp group, and I'll get a list for you.
Thanks.
Yeah, I mean,
Great.
I pretty much assume that most everybody on the call at some point would want to try it, and I'll make sure everybody that's.
Well, the good news is that you already have a scientific instrument, which is the Bach BM microphones. These are super calibrated. The only thing is that if I would advise you before you use them Bach ORC, because every once in a while, microphones, because of humidity, can drift tiny bit. Most Bach BMs last for years without drifting. But there is a module, some of you might not even know about it. I'll go back here, and when I give my ORC presentation, I'll go through it. There's a way here to calibrate with the left speaker, using the left speaker of your microphone, of your own left speaker. You can create a calibration, gain calibration, and rematch the calibration between the gain of the left and right speaker, the left and right microphone rather. So I would advise those of you who are going to be doing Bach ORC to recalibrate for the gain. And it's a very simple process. Do that once and for all. And most likely you'll find that it hasn't drifted, but it's possible that it might drift by a dB or so. But the nice thing is that you already have a scientific instrument, which is these free field equalized microphones. And we have head tracking. So this is something that we can do that other systems can't. I mean, to be able to update the filter as a function of head tracking is not a trivial thing. And we did that for Bach, so it's easy to extend to ours.
Speaking of head tracking, do you want to introduce your head in the background? Your assistant?
So this is a head I've been working on for the past 2 years with actually with a wonderful Bach for Mac customer. I think I can say his name. He's a remarkable gentleman by the name of Scott Wheeler. Scott Wheeler is a person who's designed heads and masks for many, many movies you've seen. He's a big Hollywood, is one of the leading Hollywood people for he's traveling to China right now to do a blockbuster in China. But he just finished a movie with Francis Ford Coppola. He's done many, many masks and many, hands and body parts for Hollywood movies. He's an audiophile, and he is a Bach for Mac enthusiast. And he and I talked about my dream of making a very special head that has a lot of acoustic characteristics, including a very special pinna. And guess what? It's designed so you can actually take the Bach BM regular microphone or Bach BM Pros and just plug them in the same way you plug them into your ears. Even better, there's a special hole for them. And then this cable is routed in the body head, in the body of the dummy head. There is a slit where you can actually put the microphone in the slit so it will disappear. And it has a lot of acoustic properties, including very human-like, fleshy-like feel, and facets that do all kinds of refraction to purify the signals. So pretty much everything we know about dummy head. Why do you need this? Only if you're recording binaurally. It's not needed for making Bach filters. Your head is much better. But this is for people doing binaural recordings. There's no really a perfect head. And because it's made to go with the Bach BM Pros, you can use the same Bach BM Pros or Bach BM for your ears or your dummy ears. And then people who like to do their own recordings binaurally, and there are a lot of people doing binaural recordings, can benefit from the Bach BM Pro microphones, which are state-of-the-art right now. They have the highest signal-to-noise ratio of any microphone their size. And they have the highest dynamic range of the...
What I'm envisioning, Edgar, is instead of bringing my cell phone to record the rooms in these shows, I'll just walk around with that head on a stick, and I can record, and I'll put a cowboy hat on top.
Yeah, it has the advantage when you go to a concert and record binaurally, it doesn't cough. it doesn't clear his throat.
Yes. Yes. And that probably is something that you have to worry about sometimes. Huh? Yeah. Interesting.
Yes, you do. Yeah, so this is also we're hoping to get. We're definitely going to unveil it around Christmas too. That's mostly geared to pro audio people and people doing binaural content. Okay. Yeah, there's no clear advantage for an audiophile. You have your head. It's much better to do it with your head than to do it with a dummy head. To make a Bach filter with your head.
Oh, that's cool. All right. Well, looking forward to seeing you this weekend and all the new toys you're bringing. I guess you're going to run that 5-minute calibration to use the ORC for this room, but we're not going to be doing.
That's right.
It's too long to do AV demos.
I can generate ORC filters right now for anyone offline. I mean, I can do them on my computer. I'll do them once we set up the room on Thursday night. I'll use my laptop to create an ORC filter once and for all for that with my head, and it would be very much better than not using one for other people's head. We won't be doing ORC filter for every person, but it's not really needed. But it will do. ORC will be ported to Bach SP in the near future, but it's first appearing in Bach DSP.
Cool, yeah, and I'll video that as well, so people can start getting an idea how simple it is, and the speed of which processing is just a function of you reprogramming the language. So
that's right. Yes, it's happening right now. This is just translation of the code.
All right, awesome. Well, yeah, I don't want to keep you too long tonight. You basically blew my mind again with all the stuff you shared with us, the Sphere. Capital Audio Fest is going to be a great time. Pete's already looking at restaurants, Lebanese restaurants for us to go eat at.
Great.
And that milk liquor, I'm staying away from that this time.
The Ouzo?
The Ouzo, right. Whatever that was, yeah. I'm staying away from that.
Peter and I have to work on you more.
Okay. All right. Does anybody else have any other questions before we wrap things up?
I feel for you. I remember the first time I got into Uzo. Oh my.
Do you
Yeah,
like
not
it, Mike?
again.
I grew up with that stuff. So Pete the Greek and I have in Lebanon and Greece. This is your mother's milk.
Yeah. You know, Pete just came from the Sphere as well. He was on the front row as well.
Great. This
So
has been tremendous.
we'll have a lot to talk about this weekend in Capital Audio Fest. So if any of you other guys are coming, make sure to say hi, and maybe we'll all go to dinner one night.
Wonderful. Hope to see you all.
Thank you, Edgar.
All right.
you
Thanks
all.
again.
Bye.
All right. Good night, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you, Jason. Thank you again.
Take care.